Welcome once again to the Distractaholics Podcast. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Morgan.
And just in case this is your first time with us, we take a deep dive into movies, TV shows, literature, basically whatever else we want to talk about that keeps us distracted. And today, on this day, we are talking about The Great Gatsby. That's right. The book that everyone was made to read in high school. We are talking about it. I didn't have to read it
in high school.
Well, you're not everybody. So we are going to talk about the movie, the 2013 film, today on this podcast.
And I also read the book in the last week because I like to read the books before I see the movies. So I did that as well.
Morgan, hit us with the summary.
All right. It's the spring of 1922, and wide-eyed Midwesterner Nick Carraway has just moved to New York City in pursuit of the American dream. Setting into a home next door to wealthy Jay Gatsby, Carraway grows increasingly fascinated by the elaborate parties held by his new neighbor's estate. Meanwhile, across the bay, Carraway's cousin Daisy flounders in her marriage to philandering aristocrat Tom Buchanan. Inspired by the debauchery on display at Gatsby's wild parties and the lives of the wealthy elite, Carraway begins putting pen to paper as it gradually becomes clear that his cousin and the millionaire share a complicated romantic past that remains unsolved.
Thank you, IMDb. Okay, all right. It's time to discuss our favorite characters. Morgan, you have to go first.
So my favorite character is actually Jordan Baker. Pause for effect. Tyler is not impressed with my choice.
Why, Morgan?
Because out of all of the people, she is the most authentic person. She's pompous, but she completely owns it, and she takes hold of it rather than pretend to be something she's not. She's pretentious, and she doesn't care. She doesn't care what anybody thinks.
Boring. Morgan, let me discuss how much I love Jay Gatsby.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
And then we can discuss how much I hate him.
This man he is the most hopeful man. Nick says it when he's writing. His work ethic, his drive, that is all inspirational to me. And even when he loses it all in the end, he still holds on to that little piece of hope.
I don't know. I don't like Gatsby.
Oh, jeez.
And I don't understand. Maybe I'm the only person. I know a ton of people absolutely love this movie, love this book, love this entire story. I wasn't that impressed with it. The book was okay. I mean, I finished it. I read it pretty quickly, but I didn't like Fitzgerald's writing. He did okay describing things, but he always describes all the characters, especially the women, starting out with looks and then how they carry themselves. And it could just be an example of the time period, but it seems like all the women, he portrays them as pretentious on that initial meeting when Carraway first meets them. It's like he's already completely judged them before he knows anything about them. I don't know. I don't understand why people are so encaptured by this book. I know. I'm
going to get into it later. I'm going to defend it starkly. But Morgan, I have to know first. I have to know who your least favorite character was. We need to know.
It is of utmost importance. My least favorite character, probably Daisy and Gatsby.
All right, break it down for us.
Well, Daisy, I'm going to mostly talk about the book, but instantly when she first meets Nick in the book and he's talking about her, I instantly disliked her. I didn't like, obviously, how he was describing her, but she just seemed extremely manipulative to me, the way he talks about the way she looks at people and the way she talks to them. She lowers her voice so it sounds like she's just talking to you, and that she will tell you anything you want to hear in the world, and that you guys share the secret between each other, and that she's so alluring and mysterious. And I don't know, people like that are dangerous, and it made me instantly not trust her. I don't like Gatsby because I feel, yes, he does have hope that's inspiring, whatever, but I also feel like he thinks the world owes him everything because he's worked so hard. So, your least favorite character, Tyler, I bet I can guess who it is.
Why don't you go ahead and guess?
It's Daisy.
Why would you guess that? I must know.
Because of how I talked about how she was manipulative and she's just not a genuinely nice person. And I know your feelings about that.
Yep. Daisy is my absolute least favorite character. She had the chance to call off her marriage to a lying and cheating husband, and she didn't want to take it because she couldn't admit that she made maybe a wrong decision.
And I also think part of that was because she wanted money. She was a gold digger.
I can't disagree with that.
Can you say that? Is that politically correct to call someone a gold digger?
I mean, Kanye talks about it, so I think we're okay.
Oh, God. If Kanye is the judgment of what is okay to say.
I just don't like Daisy. I'm done.
That's it? I would be interested to know if anyone does like Daisy as a character. Email us or social media us. I want to know why. Change our minds. You won't, but you can try. So I know you're a huge Leonardo DiCaprio fan, and I do just want to say that I couldn't picture anyone else playing Gatsby because I feel like Leonardo DiCaprio was perfect for this role. I also want to add, though, and this is gonna make you so mad, and I'm sorry, but and I just want to say that I made Tyler promise to still be my friend and still be a part of the podcast with me after we had our conversations about Gatsby, because I'm afraid he's gonna leave the podcast and hate me after all I have to say.
Morgan, just rip the Band-Aid off. Just rip the Band-Aid off, Morgan. Let's go. Let's do it.
Leonardo DiCaprio could have done such a better job than he did in this movie. This was not his best acting. He was made to play this character, and I feel like he didn't do it to the best of his ability. I was really let down. Okay, share your harsh words with us.
No. I'm actually going to agree with you. I actually don't think that the movie is written very well. It's actually at least 45 minutes too long. And there's a lot of stuff that I don't think is shown correctly. I just wish it had been more modernized versus trying to keep some things close to the book.
I hate how they tried to modernize some shit in the movie. Like, let me flip to my notes again. I hated that the CGI was so fucking bad.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
So fucking bad.
They couldn't have just gone to Long Island and rented a mansion.
Well, exactly. And I don't understand why, like, the transitions with the different scenes. I feel like they tried to make it into an adventure type movie. Like, you know, in Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, when they're like trying to, they sweep over water or the plains or something, and they play dramatic music. They try and do this in this movie, and this movie is not an adventure movie.
Yeah, I think that's on the directing side, though. I wouldn't say it's fault. I wouldn't say it's the fault of the writing or the acting, but I agree with you 100%. The car scenes where they're driving into New York.
Oh my God,
they drove me nuts.
Bad. And I honestly think they were doing it on purpose.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because it's supposed to be like Nick remembering all this stuff, but I hated it. And oh my gosh, how they put in modern music.
Oh, we're going to disagree. Okay.
Oh my God. I hated it. The 1920s had such amazing, different, like it was a whole new saga when it came to music. You had jazz, you had all this stuff, and they don't utilize it. I would have loved if they would have taken the music that they wanted to, the modern music that they wanted to, and then changed it into kind of like a 1920s vibe. And they do this in one part of it where they do Young and Beautiful by Lana Del Rey as a foxtrot. And I did appreciate that.
The only song I like from this album, the entire album, is Lana Del Rey's Young and Beautiful. It's the right song at the right time.
Yeah, like when she's dancing around and
Yes.
Yeah, and just because of how he's looking at her and stuff. Yeah.
But speaking of the 20s, Morgan, I can't state enough how much I love the 20s and especially the Art Deco stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It calls to me.
Okay.
No?
And you like the clothes as well, the style.
Oh, everybody that can't see Morgan right now, they need to subscribe to our Patreon because she went all out for our episode.
I did. I even put lipstick on and then tried to eat and drink with it on. And I don't know how people do that. Is that how people stay really skinny because you don't want to mess up your lipstick? But it did not stop me.
Morgan. The book starts. In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my head ever since. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, he told me, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had. Really good advice. Everybody should think about that before they judge. Just please.
Yeah. I think that's something that you and I have talked about multiple times is everyone brings their life experiences to their thoughts and how they portray themselves and how they interpret the world around them. And I think that's something that we as humans need to take into account more.
There's another quote that happens at the beginning that I also really like. And it's when Nick is describing Gatsby. He says that Gatsby is the single most hopeful person I have ever met and I am ever likely to meet again. I just think that it really does define Gatsby's character really well, regardless of what Morgan thinks of him.
So I thought that the actor that they had portraying Tom, Daisy's husband, actually did a really good job portraying him as a brute and just condescending. And I don't know. I thought he did a good job.
Morgan, here's something that confuses me. You know, they show where they go into like his trophy room and he has all these trophies and we find out he's a polo player.
And then he gets upset.
Right. But we don't know what else he does. I guess why would somebody be upset for being called their accomplishments? Is it reductionist for him to be called a polo player? But we never.
My interpretation of that was because he's a has-been.
I can agree with that.
He reached his peak and now he can't get past that. Like he reached his peak and he has nothing else that he's ever going to accomplish to that height. So that's how I took it, is like why he didn't want to be known as the polo player because he's washed up.
All right. I'll buy it.
I really liked following that after we go through the trophy room. They did a really good job with the introduction to Daisy scene where they had all the sheets billowing and everything. Are
you reading my notes?
No, I'm not. I'm looking at my piece of paper. You can see that. So, when I was reading the book, I was trying to picture the scene and I was having a hard time picturing it. And when I watched the scene in the movie, I was like, oh my gosh, they completely depicted that how I should have been seeing it in my head while I was reading the book. So I did really appreciate that scene.
I want to go into a conversation that Daisy and Nick have that's always confused me. And I'm hoping that you explain it to me.
I have it written down.
Okay. It's talking about the birth of her daughter.
Yeah.
And
what? Are you reading my notes?
What's scary is that we again, it's this telepathy thing that we've got going on. She says, quote, I hope she'll be a fool. That's the best thing a girl can be in this world, a beautiful little fool. And I've always struggled with the meaning of that. And to me, here's what I thought it meant. And I want you to correct me because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I've always thought it meant she would be kind of ignorant of the pain that the world had caused Daisy. But knowing that probably wasn't going to happen. She was going to experience all that as well.
I was furious at this quote because really, that is the best thing a girl can be in the world. No, I disagree with that completely. And I think that to ever hope that for your daughter is awful.
I don't get the parties.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why he doesn't just, for this guy that's laid out this perfect life for himself, why he doesn't just go and get Daisy if that's what he wants. He knows what he wants and he's not afraid to go get it other places. But when it comes to Daisy, he tends to just kind of throw these parties and hope she wanders in. I don't understand it.
See, I think that entire thing was bullshit. He was throwing the parties because he thought that she wanted this luxurious lifestyle and this entire lifestyle that's just full of things. And that's why he's throwing the parties, is to impress her. And I don't think he just wished she'd wander in. I think he was, if she did wander in, I want her to be impressed with how awesome I am now.
But let's argue this. Would you not go to that party?
I mean, I'd go at least once to check it out, yeah. But let's get to the scene in the movie. I hated how they portrayed the party. Like, be true to the 1920s. Those people knew how to party. This isn't a rave. This isn't a rave. And I feel like that's how they portrayed it in the movie. And I get it was ostentatious, but they didn't do it correctly in the movie. They're wrong.
Let me nitpick the party now.
Okay.
At the end of the party, there's this huge fireworks display. Huge.
Mm-hmm.
He literally lives across the bay from the Buchanans.
Oh, yeah.
I don't understand. Then later, Daisy acts surprised that he lives across the bay. Like, did they not see all these fireworks going off and going, I wonder who lives over there?
I would think that would make sense to question it.
Is Gatsby's pursuit of Daisy romantic or creepy?
I think it's endearing if the feeling is mutual. But in this case, I don't feel like the feeling was mutual. I feel like Daisy was using it as a way to possibly get out of her loveless marriage. And I don't think that Daisy really truly loved him anymore. Like she loved him as a part of her past, as someone when she was younger, but I don't feel like she still actually had those feelings.
Let's cut to Gatsby's house.
I feel like this scene and this portrayal of her stepping into Gatsby's life is just incredibly sad, because I feel like Daisy is putting on a show and she's acting, and she's like, oh, we could just dance forever and we could do this and put on this music. And I think she's incredibly impressed because we've already decided she's a liker of things.
Morgan, you actually used the term gold digger, just to clarify.
I was trying to put it more eloquently. She's a material girl. I feel like we see this and she's just infatuated with the extravagance of the place, which is exactly what Gatsby wanted. And you see that moment in the bedroom where he's throwing all these shirts down at her and he's seeing her on his bed and just seeing all the possibilities of them being together. And she's just lavishing in the luxuriousness of all these shirts. And I feel like she does in this moment have a little bit of heartbreak, knowing how much he loves her and how she did love him at one time. And I feel like it really does hurt her in this moment, but I feel like mostly it's just sad because we see her as wanting things rather than him. And would she have looked at him twice? Would she have given him a second look if he was still poor?
Morgan,
and throwing flannels at her? Like,
first of all, there is nothing wrong with a nice flannel.
Oh, I love flannel.
Second, so you and I had a completely different interpretation of these scenes in the mansion.
Interesting, but we both thought it was sad. Did you think it was sad?
Oh, yeah.
No?
There's a couple things that happened. Let me just break them all down, and then you can yell at me and tell me I'm crazy later. So I don't think that what she's doing there is overwhelmed with the extravagance. I think she genuinely still has those feelings for him. She is romanticizing that old relationship that they had as well. Just like he's doing, he's just done it to a much stronger degree. But she says to him, even before they make it into the room where he's throwing the shirts, I wish I had done everything on earth with you. And then we get into the throwing of the shirts. Mm-hmm. He's throwing all those shirts and she's so overwhelmed by emotion that she literally can't get the words out that she wants to say. So I don't disagree that she's overwhelmed with the possessions. I think that she wants to say things like, I wish I had been with you, or I wish I had chosen you. But I think you are right. I don't think she would have chosen him because he wasn't wealthy.
And she says, I wish I would have done everything in life with you. But I don't feel like that's true. If you're willing to do everything in life with someone, then you're willing to go through being poor with them. And I feel like she was just feeding him what he wanted to hear.
I think she genuinely wishes that it was him instead of Tom, but with the money.
Yes, I think she's hopeful, but it's not realistic. It's hopeful, but not realistic,
Correct.
I guess.
It's a fantasy.
And I think she knows that.
After the Daisy and Gatsby affair, they go to tell Tom, blah, blah, blah. We end up at the hotel in New York City. The whole scene is very, very heavy. Morgan, what did you, oh, it's terrible. I could not be in the room. What are your thoughts on the whole thing?
This entire scene and just, oh God, I hated this. I hated this so much. And there are so many reasons why I hated this. Okay, so this entire hotel scene where Tom and Jay are fighting about Daisy. They're fighting about her like she's not even in the room. And that infuriated me. And I just feel like it reiterates the fact that Daisy is just an object to them. She is not a person with feelings, and that she has, like, it's Gatsby who is telling Tom she never had feelings for you while she's sitting right there. And that, it drove me crazy. And what made it even worse for me is the fact that she's sitting right there and she's not doing anything about it. She's just sitting there completely placid, not talking about her own feelings and not being involved in the conversation, just letting them talk about her. And
they talk about her, they talk for her.
Yes. I hated it. And I quote said, barf. They think they just own her because they love her. No, she loved me. No, she loved me. Wah, 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 wah. I don't think she truly loved either of them. Those were my notes on that part. I thought they were both huge babies and Daisy's a coward. What are your thoughts, Tyler?
I was actually wondering what Jordan thought of all of this.
I love Jordan so much because she's just taking all this bullshit in and just riding with it. Like
yeah, okay, let's see what happens next. Like, yeah,
exactly. And I feel, I don't know, I like Jordan. So after they're leaving the hotel, Tom is pretty confident that everything that he spilled about Gatsby is going to completely deter Daisy from ever getting with him. And so he's like, you two take your big ostentatious yellow car and go home and we'll catch up with you. Because I feel like he's trying to rub in the fact to Gatsby that I have this and you will never have this. Na. But okay, when Mrs. Wilson gets hit by the car, it was just so over dramatic and fake. Oh God, I hated it.
I was more fascinated with after the accident when Gatsby decides that he's going to take the fall for Daisy.
If you were in Gatsby's situation, would you take the fall for Daisy?
No.
That is not what I was expecting.
I ain't going to jail. You know how long I would last in prison, Morgan?
He's too pretty for jail. Oh, I was not expecting this at all. I said if you were Gatsby, would you take the fall for Daisy? Okay, so you have to take into account his infatuation with her.
Morgan, if you were Gatsby, would you take the fall for Daisy?
If I was Gatsby and had this incredible infatuation and love for this person, yes, I would have done the same thing. Looking from the outside looking in, Daisy is a terrible person. She should go to jail for what she's done.
What else are we going to talk about?
So the next part in the book, I had to go back and reread the ending multiple times because I did not understand what was happening. And maybe it's just because I'm a very fast reader. Sometimes I skim the words too fast and I get confused. But I had to go back and reread. I couldn't tell if Gatsby was dead or if he's just laying on the couch because he's in shock because he had to kill Wilson. Like, I was totally confused from the description in the book. After I reread it a couple times and then carried on, I was obviously able to determine that he was in fact dead. But in the movie, we see Gatsby is getting out of the pool to answer the phone. He has that last glimmer of hope because he thinks it's Daisy calling him when really we find out that it's Nick. And before we found out it was Nick, I was absolutely pissed because I'm like, she does not call him. What is this bullshit that they're trying to put into this movie? And so I was really pissed off until I found out that it was actually Nick calling to check on him. So my interpretation of this encounter is that it's completely different it's completely different for me how the movie interpreted it. How he had this last glimmer of hope and then Mr. Wilson shoots him. For me in the book, how I was picturing it happening was he was laying in the pool, just relaxing. Wilson comes up to him and confronts him about everything. And I'm not just making this up for the podcast to counter your thoughts about hope. My interpretation was that he lost all hope about getting Daisy and he knew that she was safe. So he just let Mr. Wilson kill him because he didn't want to go on without having that hope anymore. I know that's incredibly tragic, but that was my interpretation of the book ending. What else do you have for me? That's about the end of my notes.
I have nothing. I have nothing more to add other than that.
What?
I really like this movie. I like the way it ends.
Mm-hmm.
I like that he has that last glimmer of hope. That's the way I hope to go out, hopeful. I would give this movie, Morgan, if I had to rate it, and this is a movie I've seen many times,
Mm-hmm.
I would give it an 8. Even with all of the problems we've described, I would give it an 8. Now go ahead, criticize me.
Well, I messaged you right after I finished watching it, and I gave it a 4 or a 5.
Okay, no, hold on. Pick a number first before I retaliate.
I think it's a 4.
I knew she was gonna pick a 4. Okay, what would you give? Hold on. What would you give the book?
Actually, before I said that, I think it was the book that I gave a 4. I would give the book maybe a 5. I would give the book maybe a 5, but it's not, when I'm reading, I'm trying to obviously distract myself. That's why we're here if we haven't reiterated it enough. When I'm reading a book, I either want to relate to the characters or I want to be completely entertained by the plot or taken on a journey. I think that's why I'm so interested in fantasy, horror, or thriller type genre, because it's something to completely take me out of real life. And I don't love stories and romance and drama just don't really do it for me. And I think it's because when I want something to distract myself, I want it to actually take me somewhere else. And that stuff just doesn't interest me at all. So I know this book is a classic, and I know that so many people love this story. Tyler has given me his reasons of why he loves it. He thinks it has a great lesson. He thinks it's just a good story. Listeners, let us know what you think about The Great Gatsby. Whether you've read the book or the movie. If you've seen the original movie, I'm not sure when it was made.
There's been a couple.
Yeah, and if you've seen the 2013 version, what's better? Is the book or the movie better? The correct answer for that is it's always the book. That's not true. Lord of the Rings, the movie's better than the book.
What is a Lord of the Rings?
Don't worry, we'll explore it once we're better at at this.
What is a Frodo?
Distracting me this week, like I said, I read The Great Gatsby, the book. I watched the Great Gatsby movie. My husband and I have been binge watching the old seasons of Survivor, and I played a couple hours of Valheim, the video game, with my friends and crocheted a little bit, and I started reading The Secret Garden. What has been distracting you this week, Tyler?
Okay, distracting me this week, mostly work. I've got some more Distractaholic swag to make. I've got some more t-shirt designs I want to make.
Ooh.
And I'll admit it, I'm not afraid to admit it, distracting me this week, Taylor Swift.
I was just going to ask you if you were going to mention that.
The number of Taylor Swift songs I have added to my Apple Music library in the past 3 days is disgusting.
Which you can actually check us out on Apple Podcasts now. We are live up there, and we're hoping to be live on Google Podcasts here within the next couple weeks. Hopefully by the time that this show airs, we will be live. Keep checking us out on YouTube. Right now we have our comments shut off, so if you want to reach out to us, hit up our Instagram or Twitter, or you can always send us a good old-fashioned email. So our next topic of discussion, and we will also be giving updates about this yoga journey that we are having. Our next topic will be is it 2007?
2007.
2007 movie Superbad. So make sure you check that out if you haven't checked it out before. And we will be discussing that. And there will be a lot of adult content discussed in that podcast, so listener discretion is advised.
But let's be honest, if you're listening to our podcast, you're an adult anyway.
Well, and if you're watching that movie, you should probably be an adult anyways. I think that's the show. I don't know what else there is
that
to
the show?
say about.
Oh, hold on.
That's the show.
Let me take us out. All right. All right, old sport. We're going to wrap this up. You can hit us up on distractaholics.com. You can find us on the Twitter. We're at Distractaholics. We're on the Instagram. What's our handle?
Just Distractaholics.
Yep. I don't know how the Instagram works.
I just take pictures.
Distractaholics@gmail.com. You could probably find us on Google. Otherwise, hit us up on the podcast platforms.
And thank you so much for joining us. We've had a lot of fun doing this, and we hope that you guys have had fun becoming Distractaholics with us.
And even if you didn't, we're going to keep doing it. Bye.
Bye.